All right, I'll tell you. Do you know the Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man.
Yes, I know the Muffin Man. Who lives on Drury Lane?
Well, she's married to the Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man!
She's married to the Muffin Man.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Good? All right. And they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming.
And
that's mine.
And that's going to be an hour of the podcast.
Yeah, well, you got to do it, so I wanted to do it as well.
Welcome, travelers, to the special episode.
Let's call them what they are. Welcome, Shreks.
Shrekkers.
And Shrek-alikes. All of us, we are all Shrek. I am Shrek. That is...
I'm Donkey Boy.
He's Shrek as well. We're both Shrek. Everybody is Shrek.
This is the special episode that we are giving you guys a break from Adventure Time because I know that we get a little burnout sometimes. I know y'all might get a little burnout sometime. So we sat there and brainstormed for a while on what the special could be. If it was going to be Cowboy Bebop, if it was going to be an anime movie, if it was going to be another Cartoon Network show. And we realized that Shrek at least has these elements, dragons, princesses, two unalike buddies going on an adventure that kind of fit with the trope of our show, Never Ending Adventure, you know?
And I just wanted to talk about Shrek.
So. I know. Who doesn't, man? Well, I wanted to open up just like the whole day today.
Unpeel it. Just one layer at a time. And
everybody has a relationship with the movie Shrek.
Yeah.
It came out in 2001, came out when I was in first grade. You were in first grade. I'm sure a lot of people's like beginning of childhood, beginning of being able to watch like movies. What kind of place did Shrek hold in your childhood growing up?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if there's a specific answer for it, but it was definitely the go-to. We are in the back of my dad's car and we were going to see grandparents.
Yeah.
And we had to have a movie on. And it was
like,
Incredibles or it was Shrek.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that was like, I was going to say like we had a portable DVD player and it was probably one of the ones that was on repeat on car trips all the time.
Yeah. There just wasn't much of a better option. I mean, it's a movie that makes you laugh and giggle every single time.
It is.
But we just rewatched it and the amount of fart or butt jokes that are in this freaking movie, it doesn't take away from the film. So this is not me saying don't watch it. It doesn't hold up. It definitely holds up. It's still so good.
Well, we normally talk about Adventure Time, which we have realized
so many fart jokes
through 13 episodes of the show. There's been a fart or butt joke in every episode, and it holds up.
Lots of butt references. You know? So really, that's the correlation is. We're just like, what other media or what other film or media or TV show talks about butts?
How else can we just say butt in a sentence and have it roll
We'll
on?
do Ace Ventura Pet Detective next where he's talking out of his butt. It's a great film.
I love Jim Carrey, don't get me wrong, but that one, it's too much.
The first one or the second one? The one with the dolphin or the one with the bat?
The one with the dolphin specifically.
Oh, that one's not nearly as good as the second one. The second one's so good.
Not to get off onto another Jim Carrey topic here, but the cool thing...
he's not even in this film.
I was going to mention with kind of it being the car DVDs, and I was Googling facts, watching videos, doing everything to prep for today. And actually, by the end of 2001, it had sold more than 5.5 million DVDs to be sold, which made it, at the time, the most DVDs ever sold for a movie. Yeah, so this was 2001 was obviously the peak of VHS going out.
Now, was it the first animated film to win an Oscar?
Yes, it was the first animated feature to win an Oscar in 2002. It was nominated and won Best Animated Feature, and it was up.
Was that a new category?
It was a brand new category, but it was up against Monsters Inc. It was up against the Jimmy Neutron movie. And actually, during the Oscars, they had little fake animated people in seats. So Shrek and Donkey were in a seat, like in tuxedos. Jimmy Neutron and Goddard were sitting there. Like they were really all out for anime. I think they realized that because Shrek did so good, Monsters Inc. was like when Pixar was starting to be like, oh, like let's take this genre seriously, you know?
Cool.
And Shrek
I don't know.
Blew up, man.
All of those movies that you just said were like a part of my backseat, childhood of riding in cars. it was that or sleeping.
It was that or sleeping.
You know, I think, I don't know. Maybe it was just a great way to keep us up and
it was
keep
that
us
or
entertained.
Pokemon Yellow on a Game Boy for me.
Oh man, we definitely did plenty of that. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, to kick it off, I mean, I've got some facts. I'm going to lay out some facts that'll get some wheels turning for some people.
I just want to say to the audience, like, this is a film that's been out since 2001, and there have been so many like visual and audio essays about Shrek. I really don't think like you're going to come across some of our own original content and our own original thoughts on Shrek, but there's going to be so much that is going to just like just because we've seen, like, I've watched hundreds of videos or whatever talking about Shrek. I'm sure something is not going to be an original thought. I'm going to do my best to shout out like where I got this from, sort of a thing, if I can. But you know, like, there's plenty of other stuff on Shrek, but this is just us taking our little shot at it.
Yeah, it's our own adventure, our shot at it, you know? And yeah, that's what I was going to say. If also, disclaimer for the old episode, I don't think we have to say spoilers ahead, but if you haven't seen Shrek, then that sounds like a personal problem.
No spoilers.
But to kick it off, man, so I was wondering, like, it seems like this movie came out of nowhere. You know, but I realized in looking at facts that Steven Spielberg actually picked this up in 1991, based off of a book that was written by William Steig, who was like a super famous artist for the New Yorker. Wrote like a short story book in an illustration called Shrek. Steven Spielberg picked it up, and they just like sat on it for years. They debated different actors. They picked up Nicolas Cage for the part of like Shrek at one point. He turned it down. Then that
was I'm grateful that he didn't do it.
Yeah, it would have been really weird for the rest of his career. Plus, just like it wouldn't have held up.
Well, I saw Chris Farley was supposed to be Shrek.
He
passed away.
He was Shrek.
Oh, okay.
They recorded.
Did he just not finish his lines?
Yeah, they recorded 95% of the whole entire script with Chris Farley. And it was actually a whole different script too. It was a script about Shrek wanting to get away from the ogre family business and be a knight, essentially. So that's
the ogre family business.
Yeah, like being whatever business being an ogre is, you know.
It's the earwax. He's got a talent for the earwax candles. I bet that's what it was.
It's just all they were selling earwax candles on the side of the road.
That's such a gross scene.
And grind your spleen.
Yeah, there you go. There's your Scottish.
Squeeze the jelly from your eyes.
Well, then it was like Mike Myers picked it up, and I saw somewhere that he recorded all his lines just in English. Geez.
Without a Scottish
an American accent or a Canadian accent or whatever, his typical accent. And then, he went back through and they redid it. I think Jeffrey Katzenberg was quoted to say, like, it cost the studio $4 million. I don't know if that is legit or not, but there's some like, maybe that actually isn't what it cost them.
I had read too that it took so long to record the vocals for this movie that Steven Spielberg and actually Mike Myers has it framed on his wall in his house, like wrote Mike Myers a thank you note saying, "Thank you so much for working so hard on the voice acting for this movie."
Yeah,
because he really crushes it. You know?
Well, what other Mike Myers films, like, if you're looking into, like, well, Mike Myers and DreamWorks too. There's two things I was curious about. Like, if you had to say, like, what is your favorite Mike Myers film? And then also, like, is there a better DreamWorks film? Like, I can't think of.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, I think DreamWorks has had some ups and downs, and I would say this one's up there.
How They Trained Your Dragon is fantastic.
Your Dragon is going to be probably like, it's not one that I watched like 1,000 times, but it's a really daggum good movie.
Dude, Kung Fu Panda. I'm looking at it right now on my laptop. Kung Fu Panda is one of my favorite movies of all time. That one was good for me
for the voice acting sake, but not as much of like the story arc.
No, it's so good.
Yeah,
I love it. I love that movie.
But, you know, so we're talking about like the actors and everything. Well, they finally like lock everybody in. They locked in. It was going to be someone else from SNL, and then Cameron Diaz picked it up, and it was going to be Chris Farley, and Mike Myers did it instead. So it just kind of sounded like this movie had so many iterations, but it's almost just unfathomable to think about. Like, we almost didn't have the Shrek that we have today. You know?
Yeah, they redid so much of it. But is there? I mean, Shrek is definitely up there for me with Mike Myers. Just was curious.
Yeah,
do you have another one?
Man, I'm not crazy big on Mike Myers. I haven't seen all the Austin Powers.
Well, you don't need to see all of them, but if you've seen one of them, you know what it's doing. It's
I'm trying to dig deep on any other like deep cut Mike Myers films,
Yeah.
but like they obviously I'm not a big enough fan to like be able to pull one out
Wayne's
of my butt.
World. Dude, Wayne's World is incredible.
It is good. I haven't seen that in a long time, actually.
Yeah.
We need to make that maybe a second special later down the road.
I used to jokingly say, like, I lived my life by the principles of, or like the morals of Wayne's World.
Oh, man,
that was like in high school. I was
glad
like,
you're not
Wayne's World
living-
is so sick.
I'm glad you're not living in a van now.
Oh, man, I don't know. Wayne's World's fantastic. They're not living in a van. They're like high school kids or
but you would
something.
be living in a van.
Oh, yeah, I might be. Yeah.
Well, and then last kind of fact before we actually talk about like the fun parts of the movie, is that it was recorded at Abbey Road Studios, which I thought was like super awesome. I was like, man,
really
that's like
cool.
pretty pro. Like they were like legit with their voice acting too.
Well, there's another music reference here too with the three guys that founded DreamWorks were Jeffrey Katzenberg, who left Disney, and then and was like a part of like the Disney Renaissance, quote unquote, and then Steven Spielberg, as you had mentioned earlier, who had the idea for Shrek. I guess I didn't know that, but and then David Geffen, and that's like Asylum Records and Geffen Records, and he was the original manager or maybe the only manager for Crosby, Stills and Nash. And like Asylum Records and all that. That's like the Eagles, like there's a whole bunch of y'all can just look that up, but. I thought that was so cool. I was like, man, I read that. I was like, I know that name.
Yeah. Well, I know
David Geffen's name.
It really goes to show like the resurgence of Disney from '89 when Little Mermaid was released. And then like that's when Disney started to blow up with their movies.
Mm-hmm.
Pixar did A Bug's Life before this, and that you could tell that people like Steven Spielberg were taking notice and realizing that animated movies are the future of a whole different genre of how to do kids movies, of how to, and then like we talking about Shrek, it's kind of a kids movie and it's kind of an adult movie too, like just based on the humor.
I agree. Yeah. And again, Jeffrey Katzenberg talking about Little Mermaid, like he was a big part of that.
Yeah.
He did that one, and then Beauty and the Beast was another one that he's like quoted to be a big part of the production of and the creation of. So.
And that's what's so funny is that Shrek takes actually so many elements. If we think back and like there was Snow White, there was Cinderella, there in Shrek 2, there's a reference to the Little Mermaid.
Oh yeah.
And there's so much stuff. They actually had to sit down with lawyers from Disney and from DreamWorks to do a screening of the movie prior to the release to make sure that Shrek was not being too defamatory.
I can't believe they got away if they actually had to do that, because supposedly the CEO of Disney at the time, Michael Eisner, is like kind of like portrayed as Lord Farquaad in this film.
So there's a little bit of bitterness for the people that left Disney.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jeffrey Katzenberg. I think he like was supposed to be up for a promotion or wanted a promotion, and they wouldn't give it to him, and so he. DreamWorks.
Well, no, that's awesome. I have some notes on Farquaad later, and when we get more into our like in depth, let's talk back and forth about our lives and stuff like that. I've got some good notes on him, which will ultimately probably lead back to Eisenberg. I was going to say Heisenberg.
Heisenberg.
Well, right on, man. So we watched the movie the other night.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw it before this?
I haven't seen Shrek. I think I watched it in college once.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a while,
just like
man.
A random like college. That would have been
6 years ago.
6 years ago or so. 6 or 7 years ago. Just like a random like, let's have a movie night. What are we going to watch? I was thinking I had a group of friends that would, and parties and that sort of thing. I think Shrek was one of these movies, but a lot of times it was Blubber.
Yeah.
We would have a separate room, and this was at my buddy's house, and they would just like basically block it off, and it would just be the Blubber room. There would be like 2 chairs and Blubber playing on repeat in that room on like a little box TV.
Flubber.
Flubber.
You were saying Blubber. I was like,
which is the one with Robin Williams.
With Robin Williams, yeah. And
okay.
he puts
is Blubber a film? I'm just going to keep saying Blubber because that's funny.
I was about to roll with that the rest of the podcast.
No, Flubber. Sorry. Yeah, the little green guy. the little flame boy. No, the little green goo.
Little green goo. But so you had this little, the Flubber room in the basement. It was just
a Flubber room. It was so weird. And that was my friend group in college. And I think Shrek sometimes would be on that TV.
Okay.
And I'm sure at a party that I just was not feeling, that I'm sure I sat in there and watched probably 30 or 40 minutes of it just to get away from people.
Yeah. And then, hey, that's being pretty introspective at a party, is to be like, hey, maybe people need like a breather room.
Well, we were weird. It was
Yeah.
just a weird thing that we could go into the weird parties that friend group threw. Hot dogs was a great one.
Hot dogs. I don't know. I don't know when the last time I watched it. I know it was recently enough, probably sooner than 6 years ago. And I don't know if it's just the effect of my childhood, but I feel like I could just quote the whole movie, like line by line. I know exactly what they're
I'm glad
we're
we're not doing that.
No, this is not
I'm glad we're not
this is not a
that,
table
though.
read of Shrek.
There are so many good one-liners, though. I mean, like, and that's the funny thing. It's like, this is definitely one of those movies that I just felt like I quote it. It has been 6 years since I've seen it, but I literally quote it like every other day.
The lines are too good, and they hold up in like situations that you're like, it'd be like, what are you guys doing in the morning? You go, I'm making waffles.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the one that I like least like now, because it has been said so many times, but it is definitely one that is just constantly being said. Dude, it's just a great film. And also, this is kind of just random, but like, I just wanted to like hype up Fiona a little bit.
Okay.
I think I don't have any notes on this. I just think Fiona's an awesome character. I think they did a really good job of, like, I was talking to my girlfriend very shortly on the way here, and I kind of came to the realization is like, she kind of plays the audience member for a good portion of the beginning of the film.
Okay.
Where it's like, we're going through and they're subverting the Disney narrative and all that stuff. And it's like, the princess isn't who you think the princess is. The dragon, or like, he defeats the dragon, but does he really defeat the dragon? It's an ogre. The ogre doesn't really want to be a hero. All these things, And so the whole time, though, Fiona is just kind of like, she's like, oh, yeah, like, aren't you, like, you're supposed to kiss me? Oh, you're not my knight, like, in my mind, what I was thinking while I'm rewatching this, and I'm like, yeah, this is wrong, like, this isn't what's supposed to be happening,
Yeah.
And until we start to see her other side. So we start to see her true self, where she's beating up Robin Hood.
Yeah.
The
Matrix freeze scene where she
so good.
Whips the guy with her ponytail.
Does she kill Robin Hood in that scene?
I don't think so, man.
I rewatched it. He gets knocked into a rock, like his head. He falls onto a rock, and he's just lights out, and then we never see him again.
I know. I haven't done Shrek 3 in a while, but I think Robin Hood
maybe he comes back.
Does have like a re-return moment.
Dude, that was one of my favorite scenes. I wish Robin Hood was not such a creep, because I would almost love for him to be my lovely of this movie, but
almost, if he wasn't rapey.
I mean, if he just wasn't who he is, but it was just such a fun scene, and I love it because Fiona does get to beat him up in the end.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of a funny part of the movie if you really think about it. There's not a ton of, DreamWorks obviously pushes Disney to an arm's length, but we realized this soundtrack killed it in this movie, and there's not a lot of songs in the movie where the characters are singing, so that was kind of a funny little,
except for Donkey.
Well, Donkey at the very end.
Sings like he's like the only throughout the whole thing, because he's like on the road again.
But that's
I
like
can't wait,
snippets. That's not like something that would make it in the soundtrack. Like,
no, but I still think there's
to the
something
movie.
to that. I think and I don't know the reason to this, but I think there's a reason why Donkey is constantly like the only character who he's like, I think he truly has accepted who he is. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows what the actual theory is? There might be one out there, but it seems like he knows who he is, and everybody else is like trying to be someone that they're not, or like isn't sure, or society won't accept them for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they're all not singing, but Donkey the whole time is just like quoting songs and singing little tunes. And then at the end, of course, we hear him singing with Smash Mouth.
And good little segue bit to Adventure Time, where so many times in Adventure Time, there's like little moments of them being like, I just did this, boo doo boo boo. I swallowed a computer, boo 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 boo. And so I like it's again. I'm not going to spend the whole. I promise you, I wouldn't spend it paralleling it to Adventure Time, but I had to mention that one.
That's okay. We can do it a little bit,
just a smidge.
But I want to give people a break.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's a really good point that you bring up. I have a little bit in my notes just about pop music as the score.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I really hadn't thought too much about, but it's just so true. Like like, man, from the get-go, first thing you hear is All Star by Smash Mouth,
Yeah.
which we were talking about when, I think we had like a minor debate about like when did the movie come out compared to when that song came out.
Yeah. Did you look up when the song came
The
out?
album, I don't know about the song. The album came out Astro Lounge, which also, quick plug.
Go listen to Astro Lounge.
Actually, if you want to hear Smash Mouth that you've never heard before, Who's There off of Astro Lounge is a pretty cool outer spacey. I had that whole album. I love that whole album, but that is a cool little tune. You might be like, hey man, I actually like Smash Mouth.
So how long before?
So 1999 to 2001 when Shrek was released. So the song had already been out for 2 years or something like that.
So this wasn't like a breakthrough. Well, I read that apparently All Star was just supposed to be a placeholder song. They didn't plan on using that for the actual movie, and then I think they pre-screened it or whatever, and people were like, yes, that's awesome.
Well, I'm sure it basically exploded All Star into meme hood. Like it probably wouldn't be such a meme song. If it wasn't
in
Shrek.
01, man. That was what was bumping. Like
I know,
that kind of music was.
But then it became a meme somewhere along the way.
I mean, everything from the early 2000s became a meme along the way.
But then, so with pop music as the score, there's not a lot of films that I feel like did it quite as well as Shrek did. I mean, you go All Star in the intro, Bad Reputation, and this is just a handful. I'm just kind of cherry picking. Bad Reputation in the fight scene against the Knights, which is Joan Jett, and then you had Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, which is like this sad, like Fiona is going to marry Lord Farquaad. And then it ends with I'm a Believer, which is Neil Young, performed by Smash Mouth. Written
for the movie. Did you figure that out?
I don't know if I'm a Believer. I feel like that's an old song. Do you think that was written?
No. I mean, like the rewrite. Smash Mouth did it for Shrek.
I'm sure they did the cover for Shrek.
And then Eddie Murphy sings on that also, which is...
Dude, Eddie Murphy just kills it, this whole movie.
Well, he was on board from the beginning, apparently.
Was he?
When they did all those cast changes, apparently when they started voice recording, he was on board and never bailed. Like and I would imagine he, with all those rewrites, he just started writing his own jokes because it's literally him as a cartoon character. Absolutely.
It's awesome, dude. But so then we go from pop music as a score to music as a character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where this film stands out with the music. Sorry, I have such a long segment on the music.
No, it's a big part of the movie.
But it's such a big part of the movie. Yeah. So music as a character is done, and there's a handful of films. And what I mean by that is like, music is intertwined so deeply in the film that it interacts with the characters, or it helps develop the film. Like the film would not be as impactful without it. And it's not just like, oh man, I love, this Star Wars soundtrack. I mean, of course it's amazing and we all know it. We all have it memorized, or Lord of the Rings or whatever, but there's like a difference, And so like a couple of examples, Baby Driver, I feel like was a film where the music is so important to the development of that film. Scott Pilgrim versus the World is another one. I mean, they're a rock band, so like, it makes sense. But also it creates this feeling like throughout the whole film, like this, I don't know, it just helps it so much. And then Guardians of the Galaxy, even, I think, has
that one's unarguable.
Yeah,
like, at this point,
that one, and then The Graduate was the last one. You could go on for a while with this stuff, but The Graduate was Simon and Garfunkel songs, where like when Sound of Silence comes on, when he falls into the pool, like you feel that on just such a level, And pop music has been done in films for a long time, but I think what stands out here is there is an original score for this movie. And as pointed out here's me, giving credit to people where I got this idea from, or this part of the idea, Sideways on YouTube points out that the main theme, which is incredibly iconic at this point too, but the original soundtrack is used as a character in important songs to build like important character or build like moments of the film. Like whenever something important is actually happening, they're not playing pop music. They're playing something very serious. They're doing like an actual soundtrack to it.
Like a score, yeah.
Yeah, a score. And it's almost like Shrek doesn't trust pop music to carry the impact of those scenes. And I just thought that was a really cool perspective and almost like reason why pop music works in Shrek is because pop music is usually in those like, oh, silly introduction, like he's showering and he's a ugly ogre and this is supposed to be a fairy tale. And to contrast that, you had Beauty and the Beast, you had Belle going around town and they're all like, oh, she's so pretty, you know, like,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, they're just like, F it. Hey now, you know, I'm taking a bath. I'm a giant ogre.
I mean, also they have like almost every bit of the pop songs in that is a montage scene.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
That's
it's
also
like
true.
The intro scene is like a montage of his day to day. The
Fight scene
night scene is just like the hit him with the chair and like him busting him up with a bunch of beer.
But what are the giant kegs there for? Do we know?
That's actually.
What was up with that?
We're diverting. Are you done with soundtrack? Because I'm about to go on so many tangents.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. So for everybody listening out there, there's. I want to hear in the comments what your most controversial scene in Shrek is. What made you question? Because the movie flows so well, we didn't stop too many times and go, why? What's going on?
Is this going where I think it's going?
It was in the knights were competing to be champions.
Okay, no,
for
it's
Lord
not.
Farquaad. And the arena is set up with 2 horses in a wrestling ring and 2 giant kegs of beer.
Oh man, they're about to party, and also you could just walk into where they're fighting.
Yeah,
like,
so I was
a
like,
giant entrance.
What was the was it a drinking contest? Was it a jousting and beer helps jousting? Like maybe that's what it was, but I didn't see any lances there, you know?
Yeah, maybe it's a durability thing. Well, there's definitely swords and stuff that they pick up. So I don't.
Maybe they were just gonna like fight in the dirt and get drunk. I don't know.
It's just, I think that was just one of those things where like, hey, this is silly. Let's do it. You know, like I bet they just were riffing, you know, in the writer's room, and they're just like, this is amazing.
But that was the one thing I caught this time where I just never questioned that before, and I was like, that was literally probably
Me neither.
One thing that stuck out to me this time that I was like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
I think mine was Dragon and Donkey.
Just sitting in the Hallelujah song.
Well,
montage.
No, I was thinking of when they're in the castle and Dragon is just like forcing herself on Donkey, aggressively pursuing him, like a little bit more than I felt comfortable with, you know? And you could tell that Donkey is like, he feels pressured. He's not in a power position because he's literally like being strangled. He's being wrapped by her tail. And, you know, she's like trying to be seductive or whatever. And he's just like, oh yeah, you got such a pretty makeup. I don't know, whatever it is. Yeah. That felt a little weird to me.
It felt weird.
But I think it's redeemed by I don't know. Maybe it's redeemed by what you're talking about, the Hallelujah montage, where like this is so not Disney too. Donkey's just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna like get with this dragon.
Yeah, they don't give much explanation besides they both are alone at that point, and they like stumble on the creek and they're both like super sad, so they partner up and.
They partner up.
I think the movie purposely didn't.
And they don't stop coming and they don't stop coming.
We're going to have to mark this as explicit now.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. This is a bonus episode. That was a joke, y'all. We're both frazzled.
Oh, I'm right. Yeah, you got me off my rocker.
Get it together.
Here.
No, I don't know, man. I mean, I think they definitely, I don't know. I'm off. I don't even know where we're going anymore.
After that one. Okay. Well,
so Donkey, but Donkey and Dragon's relationship is weird. But literally like, that is so like, you would never see that in a Disney movie. Like it's like implied that they're like having sex or whatever, but they totally did. You know, they have kids. I mean, like
they've got kids in the second movie.
Yeah. I don't know if it's at the end or not.
I think it's at the end of the second movie.
Yeah. And then, but how did she? I remember what I was going to say. How did she get free?
That's what I was wondering too. Is somehow the chain was only held together by that sword. So I imagine that if you loosened the tension on the chains, the sword would have fallen out. Probably.
I think the sword, but the chain was. I mean, she still was. Do you think there was no end to like at the end of the chain? There's nothing.
Point, she turned around and blew a bunch of fire on the chain till it popped. Like there's about 1,000 different ways.
She probably broke the chain. I don't know if the chain like has an end, like at the end it's tied somewhere or whatever. I think the sword was just to limit her movement.
Yeah, it was to stop the momentum so they could just.
Yeah, I wonder if Fiona could have beat the dragon though.
Well, unless it was really, you learn in Shrek 2 that she was put in the tower and the curse had to be broken. So Fiona probably didn't even want to get out until a prince came to rescue her. So she probably had every capability to get out on her own, but she didn't. She wanted the curse to be broken more than anything else, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and in the right way, in the like fairy tale way.
In the fairy tale way. And that was, so getting into a cool topic that I read about, but I feel like we can expand on a lot, is the juxtaposition of Shrek and Farquaad.
Yeah. Cool.
Through the movie and I actually didn't pick it up until I kind of heard lines repeated that Farquaad's thing is perfection, perfection, perfection. I want a perfect kingdom. Get rid of the fairy tale creatures. They walk into Duloc is the name. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Duloc.
The town.
Duloc. And you can actually see.
I don't know.
There's like a little painter left on the corner in one little corner of a house that's still unpainted white and blue.
Mm-hmm.
So they had just like painted everything perfectly. The little kids in the music box are like, this is our perfect place.
Well, did you pick up? I think this was Nerdstalgic on YouTube. Another shout out. Nerdstalgic, amazing YouTube channel. Like seriously, I love it. But I mean, and it points to like it's like a Disney World or Disneyland. Like that town is set up like a, you know, and it's almost like the lack of people there. I think it's supposed to be, maybe it's a metaphor for when Disney shuts down, you know, at night and there's no one else there and it's just a ghost town and it's
a
creepy.
Perfect place, but it's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to throw this Lord Farquaad if they were making fun of Michael Eisner in wanting Disney movies to be perfect and the hero to be perfect and the princess to be the perfect princess. And that, so they're kind of poking fun at Farquaad with that. And the whole movie, he's on pursuit of perfection. He wants Fiona because not even to be king, just to have the perfect image of a king and queen. Shrek, on the flip side, is imperfect, but also adaptable to the situation. Every time anything Farquaad comes across that's difficult, he doesn't know how to adapt to it. It's like, he can't figure out how to find a knight to go save Fiona. He can't figure out the stuff. And then Shrek's, he's imperfect, content with that. And then through the whole movie, you see him adapting to situations. Yeah. Like everything that goes wrong, he just takes an unconventional route. He doesn't go, when Fiona's like running down the stairs with him, she's like, you're supposed to slay the dragon and then come get me. And he's like, it's on my to-do list.
Well, he's got layers.
He's got layers.
And that's layers. And I think we can unpack those layers a little bit, unless you want to keep going on this.
No. That was
maybe after a little quick commercial break.
Actually, oh yeah. Oh man, we do need to get to those ads, man.
Yeah, I know. They pay big money.
Premium ad space this episode. For sure.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all in a second. Hear ye, pack your things and live happily ever after in Shrek Swamp. It's lovely this time of year with new developments popping up regularly at affordable prices you just can't miss. Live within close proximity of your fairy tale friends and families. Move to Shrek Swamp today. As per Lord Farquaad's 17th decree, Section 3A, all fairy tale creatures must be relocated to Shrek Swamp immediately with no exceptions. Enjoy your new home. Not here in Duloc. We are not compensating for something.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back after that ad.
That's how we're opening.
That's how we're opening, man. Come on,
okay.
Roll
What's
with
up?
me.
Yeah, I don't have an accent. I don't have an accent like that.
I can talk to you like this, big boy.
It's much better when you're doing the Puss in Boots during the commercial break.
I can't do Puss in Boots now because
why not?
We haven't gotten Shrek 2.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever will.
You, baby, I could be.
I mean, maybe we'll do Shrek 2 if the response on this one is really substantial.
If y'all love it, watch it 3 times so we can get more downloads and we'll know to do Shrek 2.
Yeah, watch it a bunch of times, get on TikTok, like all their stuff, just blow us up.
Because we need the help, man.
We're not as big as we thought we would be by now.
We are 5 downloads shy of 1,000 downloads. Thank you guys so much.
True.
Shout out to the fans here. We are 5 downloads short. We had 13 episodes through. Only 10 have been released so far, and we have almost 1,000 downloads. So thank you guys
It's
so
unreal.
much. You guys are killing it.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal. But enough about us.
Yeah,
and
I
our
want
egos.
to hit you with the hardest Shrek fact that you just need to conceptualize.
Okay.
And it's just random base fact we didn't talk about. Shrek is 7 feet tall, has 22 teeth, has 13.5-inch hands, and would be comparable to a size 22 shoe, which means he's about the size of Shaquille O'Neal.
How much does he weigh?
I didn't get
that would be
I didn't get the weight,
difference.
Man. I didn't know where the weight was out there.
Because I definitely am feeling Shaquille as you're saying that, but that is wild.
That is wild. He's a
big man.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, but he's pretty agile for such a large ogre.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to have like a huge muscle base.
Yeah. And also Shrek's pretty agile. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I'm so sorry. Shaquille, you're awesome, dude.
Shaquille, we love you. Come on the podcast, man.
What was that, like NBA Street or whatever?
Yeah.
He was always my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the best character on that game.
Dumb if he wasn't.
Man, I'll say here's my like hard Shrek fact, and this is just completely not a fact at all, just an opinion. I don't think the animation style holds up.
Yeah, it's got that weird. They don't have lifeless eyes, but they're a little empty at some parts in the movie. And I remember we were watching the show or the movie the other night, and Russell, about 3 different times you were like, it's just wigging me out, man.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I think the movie still holds up. It's still so good, but there are moments in Shrek, especially. So the one that I just wanted to point out too was when they're walking away from the castle scene in the sunflowers, and for some reason, the director or the person that was drawing the scenes,
director,
decided on like an upward angle toward the sky, and so you just see like a layer of sunflowers, Shrek and Donkey, and it's like right after one of the onion scene, so like such an important scene, and they're going through and they're just talking about I think their quest or whatever, like what they're about to do. But the models, the 3D models look so awkward.
Well, you got to give them credit.
Scene.
We're talking about 2001. We're talking about like
I totally agree.
Pixar animation was just kind of separating from Disney and everything like that. So you have to give them credit that a lot of probably strategic shots, like the sunflower scene, is that it was probably going to be really hard for them to do 200 sunflowers, but it was easier for them to do 25, 50 of them in a shot. So you almost have to think about it like that. Another thing, the animators actually, I heard that Fiona was so realistic looking to start off. Like when they did it, they actually had to like make her look a little more unrealistic.
So it's not Uncanny Valley.
So it fit with the fairy tale aesthetic.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I think that they wanted to really juxtapose her human figure and then her ogre figure and make that like, a point that she wasn't skinny, but she was still beautiful.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think Fiona could be, to even what I just said, like the Uncanny Valley thing, like Fiona is not there, but certainly I think that's the issue, or my issue with 3D models is that like some video games, especially nowadays, you're like, it's getting way too close to being like, is this real? Is this fake? Sort of a thing. And my brain struggles with that a little bit. But I think this was like what you were saying, like this was like on the cusp of them figuring out 3D models and doing it in a really cool way. And I don't want to take away from that. And I don't want to take away from this film,
it was
revolutionary.
It was revolutionary for the time. So
it's not very distracting. It's just occasionally I would notice that and I was just like, man, I don't love the way that looks right now.
Yeah, the only thing that always got me about it, really, with the animation was just how skinny Shrek's legs were, and I'm sure that was like a very strategic, artistic directive. But like, it always creeps me out how skinny his legs are,
or how short Lord Farquaad's legs are,
or how short he is,
and how large his tower is. What is he compensating for?
He's compensating for something.
Well, let's do that. Let's go into false personas is a theme that I started to notice a little bit as we're watching this. And, I guess another way that you could characterize this is I don't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the whole point of the movie because it's fairy tale books.
Yeah, definitely. So, but like Shrek himself, Fiona, Lord Farquaad, Dragon are the ones that I've really noticed this with, because Donkey seems to know who he is and he's just who he is. But
he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he goes, donkeys don't have sleeves.
But so Shrek is like, we find out that he basically he's like, there's like a deep sadness to him, and it stems from people's prejudice toward him and his loneliness in his life, or his loneliness and like his isolation, his self-isolation from the fact that people see him and they're terrified of him.
Yeah. And he gets to that point in his self-expression when they're looking at the stars and him and Donkey are talking. But I mentioned it to you in the movie when we were watching it. I was like, it seems really weird because Shrek, when we go through his first day montage, we get a full day in the life of Shrek, and he looks content as a clam. Like,
oh yeah. He was so down for that moment.
Yeah. And so and then in Shrek Forever After, for, future spoilers, go watch it. But he goes to Rumpelstiltskin and tries to get one day back where he can just be an ogre, live his old life. So it's this interesting thing where, in going back to the onion thing, it's such a deep layer.
But I think he thought he was happy. I don't think
it was
he
like
actually was happy, because he's like, I'm not the one with the problem. Okay, it's the world, and this is when they're sitting there looking at the stars. The world has a problem with me, and then he says they judge me for, or like, it's the way he delivers it too. That's Mike Myers crushes the delivery on so many of these lines. But they judge me before they even know me, and I felt that, man. Like, I even know, like, from my personal life, like, sometimes you get pinned as a certain person. It could be prejudice. It could be people that don't know you, or it could be people that know you really well, or they think they know you really well. But in your mind, like, I know I have felt, whether it was in college or even at work, like, that I've gotten pinned as that type of person, and in college, it was like to the detriment of, like, what I felt was like people not understanding who I actually was, them seeing me and like being kind of like an outsider of one of the friend groups that people that I really love, but, like, not understanding that, like, or me being like, they see me as this thing, and you start playing into it. Like, you start playing it up, or like subconsciously you become that person that they think you are, like, and I don't even know how to articulate what that feeling was with the college friend group. I see what you're saying.
It's how, like, the world perceives you, then you begin to perceive yourself.
Definitely. And I think Shrek does that at work. I was going to say, like, I have a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor a lot of times. And I've definitely felt it in conversations where, like, oh, it's, we like had during quarantine, like, we got back out together at the park, and got to hang out. And I said something, and they're like, oh, I miss Russell's, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, of course, this is a joke. And I was just like, yeah, like, I see that, but like, I do that because work would be boring if someone wasn't being a little goofy, but it's not like who I am. But so with Shrek, it's like Shrek, I don't think he really wants to be this evil ogre that's trying to scare people away from his land. He wants his land. He doesn't want people messing with him. But then at the same time, I think he wants to be loved. And Donkey is the first person who doesn't judge him. Donkey's the first person who just doesn't see him as a monster, and starts to peel back those layers.
And I think subconsciously Shrek takes that, and because, like, remember when he's like trying to get rid of Donkey and doing all this stuff, and that, like, he could have tried harder. He could have killed Donkey, like, easily.
Easily.
He eats all these animals, like, all the time. He's an ogre, and, like, but there's probably this subconscious part of Shrek that really does want a companion, and it takes somebody giving him 1,000 chances, and Donkey gives him 1,000 chances to peel, and works hard at that outer layer to get to the layer beneath and beneath and beneath.
Yeah. I don't know this, and it's not a spoiler for me. Does Shrek have parents? Do we know Shrek's parents?
Yeah, I think
family.
No, I don't know. I don't know if we ever get. We do learn in Shrek Forever After that there's other ogres out there. Okay. There's like a community somewhere. I don't know where they went to or where they are in the first movie, but in the fourth movie there are other ogres. So we know that there is part, like, Shrek probably didn't have to go and live secluded. He had probably other options.
Maybe, yeah. The other false personas, though, like, Fiona is an obvious one. Fiona knows that she is a Shrek, or a Shrek. Everybody's a Shrek.
Everybody's a Shrek.
Nice little callback there. she knows she like has the ogre curse or whatever, but her personality too, like when we start to see who she really is and what she enjoys, and she loves the gross food that Shrek cooks up and all that stuff. Like, I think she over time also, like, we start to unpack her a little bit more and get deeper in it, and we see she can kill Robin Hood and matrix a bunch of his men and all that stuff.
Yeah, but that goes into when Shrek does the onion speech, and he was like, ogres have layers.
Yeah.
Onions have layers, ogres have
But
layers.
she's a human. Like, she is a human.
I think that's part of what they're saying is that everyone has layers.
Yeah, we're all ugly.
Donkey has layers because you start to realize, he has his sad moments and he's lonely.
Yeah.
Dragon has layers. The only one that doesn't is Farquaad. I mean, that's good.
Well, I think Lord Farquaad does too, man. I mean, or as far as a false persona or whatever. But he has layers too in the sense that, like, so Dragon is this big, scary, like, supposed to be like, a terrifying dragon and killing people, and does do that. We see remember the cookbook? Or whatever, like, there was how they eat a
For
night.
those who didn't catch it, there is a giant, like, 10-foot cookbook in the castle that's how to cook a night. And it was like, the line on the bottom was like, this is a really tender cut of meat.
Yeah, it's so funny. But then we see her, she gets into the light or whatever, and she's got makeup on, and there's you're a lady dragon, like so. And then she ends up being, like, a hero, and she eats Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, well, go back. What were you saying about
Lord
Farquaad's
Farquaad? Yeah, so Farquaad,
he's got the false persona because he's, he's got Napoleon.
Well, he's prideful.
Complex.
Yeah, that's his whole thing. Is like he's so prideful, but I think it's all to hide the fact that he is a very self-centered, like, insecure man. And probably a lot of it stems from his shortness or whatever. Like. I don't know. I don't want to project.
Are you trying to make the audience
Farquaad
feel sympathy towards Farquaad right now?
I think he's just super insecure. I mean, we literally see when he pulls up to try and impress Princess Fiona, he's on the horse and he's got not only fake legs that are going down, but fake gloves that extend his arms out, and make him like normal size. Like, and then his whole town is so perfect or whatever, and he's got this giant tower and blah blah blah, and it's like, dude, I go see a therapist.
Gosh, yeah, you're killing me. You're killing me for ripping on him before,
man.
And then
you go see a therapist. We've already been over this on the podcast. You haven't cried in years.
I didn't actually. The last one I cried in, and I did remember. So I teared up, some solid tears.
Okay,
when we watched that movie Soul. I don't know if you watched it yet.
Is that the horse one?
No, that's the guy, and no, that's Spirit. That's the Spirit movie.
Yeah, you're right. I think we had the same conversation literally when we watched this movie.
Yeah, we did. But that was a good one. If you go watch it, I had to tangent there because that is the last time I cried.
Dude, we literally, me and my girlfriend, after that podcast recording, we were both like, first thing we said to each other when we saw each other was, or she was like, Ned doesn't cry. like Ned, he needs to cry. And I'm like, I know he does.
I don't know. I have a pretty happy life. And,
oh my gosh.
That means some movies get me choked up for sure.
You got some thick onion layers that need to be peeled back.
I pretty much wear myself on my sleeve. I try my best, man.
I think every listener, if you don't cry, man, like, what are you doing with your life? You're fooling yourself. If you don't believe
you got me
it.
thinking. I mean, with the theme of the movie was that everybody has layers. So, you know, like, why put it past like Farquaad that he wouldn't have layers of insecurity? And
totally does.
Why is he evil? You know, we talked about that in our Adventure Time podcast of why is the Ice King evil? Why is Princess Bubblegum the way she is? And so, like, is
Lord Farquaad even evil? I mean, you know, I the most evil thing he does in my mind, other than contracting a ogre, which isn't that bad, is just like, hey, here's your land. You know, really the worst thing he does outside of what I'm about to say is he sends a bunch of people to the ogre's land without his permission, but he's the lord of the land and whatever. I don't know. Is he rips off and destroys the legs of the gingerbread man in front of his face. Like, that was when I was rewatching. And
he's got a torture chamber too. Like, that's
it's a little shady. It's a little shady. But we're not seeing him behead people. I don't know what, like, you know, what time periods morals we're using here, but just the fact that he crumbles up the gingerbread leg, right in front of him.
And at the
so
end of the
sad.
movie, Gingy's got one stitched on leg and Candy Cane. And so where did he get the second leg? Or no, he only crumbled up one leg.
He crumbled up one. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I don't know. So I think Lord Farquaad's got some layers. He's not a good character. He's definitely a Farquaad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's got some layers, man.
But so that was your like false personas.
Yeah,
like,
and that kind of really
bits.
played into the relationships thing too, man. I mean, we talked about Shrek and Donkey, and then Shrek and Fiona. I mean, I love the scene. I just want to point out the scene where Fiona takes the initiative and goes out of her way with Shrek, and basically is like, "Hey, Donkey, like, you're looking sick, or whatever," and tricks Donkey because they see the castle, they're about to get back. And then she's like, I got to bide some more time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before Shrek, the whole like, she's talking about how ugly she is. And Shrek thinks that she's talking about him or whatever. But she's like trying to buy time. And she's like, oh, Donkey, you look so sick. And Shrek gets wind of like what she's doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just like have this wonderful exchange. And Donkey, Eddie Murphy is just so funny right there.
Well, I realized it first when they beat Robin Hood and his merry men, that she sends him off to get the blue flower, red thorn.
That's
and
true.
She
yeah.
goes,
that was the first time.
I just was trying to get rid of him. And
You're right.
It started to spark in her that she'd been locked away for something 18 odd years or whatever. And Shrek's this probably first person that she's had people interaction with. She's so by the books that when she realizes that she can put her guard down, that's like the minute she falls in love with him. So it's early on. It's as early as Robin Hood and the Merry Men,
But she doesn't realize that she can love him until Donkey's the one. Donkey peeled back Shrek's layers. Donkey goes and hangs out with Fiona in the house, and Fiona says, "Hey, look, I'm a ogre."
Yeah.
Well,
and he says that's perfect because
yeah,
Shrek has, Donkey can read Shrek at this point, so he knows.
Yeah, he makes her realize that she can love Shrek, and she should, and maybe she does. Yeah.
And by the end of that conversation, she busts out the windmill and she's ready to tell him. She's in her ogre form. She's like all like ready. And I love that is, when you're talking about relationships and stuff, that when you can find that person where you can show them your ogre side or show them your
ogre side,
show them your demons per se. Let's be on the deeper psychological perspective.
Okay.
Demons out of the closet or whatever, like that's the kind of person that when you start kind of breaking down that barrier where you can burp in front of them, you can fart in front of them. That's in my book, like a pretty key part to a long lasting relationship is that you can be unabashedly yourself,
Yeah, there's no hope for me then. I can't burp or fart in front of
no toots in front of Allie?
No. Maybe one day. We'll see.
We'll get there.
Man, my lovely was this is my lovely segment.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Oh, the lovelies.
Are you're trying to do the thing I do for your segment?
Give me some sugar, baby.
We got it. We have the sound bite. It just was played a second ago. The Three Blind Mice are probably my lovelies.
That's a good one, man.
It was just such a cool scene where they're like blind and like goofing off and
found some cheese.
But they're like dodging Shrek and like wrecking havoc. That was so great. And Donkey is just
not to mention in Shrek 2,
Donkey.
their Ocean's 11 heist on the kingdom, and the Three Blind Mice are like part of the heist.
I gotta rewatch that.
Oh, that's a good one. We'll get there.
The Three Blind Mice are probably my lovelies for this episode or this movie.
Oh man, my lovely would have to be Gingy, man.
I'm glad you said that because I knew we were gonna get some hate if he wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, Gingy. Well, you've heard me just do like at least like 3 quotes this whole episode and like voice acting. Like,
God bless us, everyone.
On my gumdrop buns. So that was my try at it.
Mine's not that good either. Don't worry.
But yeah, and then man, I got a little lesson. I got 2 lessons actually.
Oh yeah, hit me.
So first is do what you love and embrace who you are, and that is the real lesson, I think, of this movie, the real takeaway is just do that. Just embrace who you are and love it. And like, it's really hard to do sometimes. And especially if you're someone who's putting yourself out there and, you're getting feedback from random people or whatever. I could only imagine that is probably a really difficult way to live life as a celebrity or influencer or whatever.
I think about that constantly. I think about, people that you idolize or people that you may be somewhat jealous of, just like the way they live their life. I just said it before, but be unabashedly yourself.
Like, the grass is not always greener on the other side. It may look that way, but
and also, I mean, it makes life so much easier. It makes relationships so much easier because even if you are unabashedly yourself and someone's like, I don't like that, then you're like, well, we're not gonna be friends, and that's cool,
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. I have a different way of phrasing it typically, but that's something that I think about, a lot.
It's so difficult to do. I mean, I don't want to understate that. Like, it is really hard to actually embrace who you are. But I think our generation is a lot better at doing it than previous generations have been.
Well, we make it really socially and culturally acceptable.
Yeah.
And
the other thing is so dumb. I don't know why I wrote this down, but ogres are like onions. Is my other lesson.
Not like parfaits.
Not like everybody
cakes.
loves parfait.
Everybody loves cakes. Man, I don't know about lessons because I think you hit the lesson of the movie. We've talked that through. My not so serious lesson would be,
we need one.
Swamp food somehow looks delicious. I don't know. That whole scene in the beginning where he's like cooking up a meal, and also when they are cooking those like rats on the spit.
The rats,
they looked delicious.
Did not look that bad.
And then Shrek is like, and squeeze their eyes for jelly. And he's like, actually, it's quite good on toast. And I'm like, dang it, now I want to try
No, you don't want to try the jelly, toast, the eye
jelly toast.
Ew. Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I definitely think that there's something to the rats on the stick. I think he definitely toasted those up real nice.
And he was talking about making like everything into stews, which is like, again, very like the Scottish Irish thing Mike Myers was going for. And he's like, I make a lovely stew.
Man, great movie. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man, we had fun. We had a lot of planning around this one and a lot of like talk leading up to the episode special. And I think that we crushed it, man. That's maybe a little bit prideful, but
back to the egos. Back to our egos.
No, I mean, I thought that we were gonna be overwhelmed with too much content, overwhelmed with are we just gonna do a scene by scene walkthrough of the movie? Is that gonna be boring?
Didn't want to do that.
That we were gonna either not be able to pull out enough from it or not have fun. But the cool part is the crazy fun facts from behind this movie was ahead of its time, crushed it in the box offices, crushed it on the sales. It's a cultural
so nostalgic. Icon. I mean, yeah, it's gonna hold up for years. Like, the artwork, we'll see, but just the movie in general is so worth going back and rewatching. And hopefully y'all did that with us this week.
Yeah, once you realized it was Shrek, be like, okay, maybe I listened to the podcast first and then go back and try to, maybe rewatch.
Yeah, it might have been a surprise.
Look for those things that we were talking about, or vice versa. You can watch it first and then listen to the podcast, whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the next time we have a little bonus episode. I'm guessing it won't be until the end of season 1 of Adventure Time. I don't know if these will ever be more frequent or maybe one day they'll sit on a fun Patreon page or something like that, but or some sort of a subscription page thing. But I really just like it being a part of the podcast if we can do that, because I think it gives a nice little mix to what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll figure that out.
It does. And we want to give you guys a break. We want to realize that we reference so many other cultural things in our normal episodes that obviously it was, due time that we dig into one of those cultural and not consider it a quote unquote tangent.
Definitely. Well, thanks you guys. Thanks for following us and reviewing us, and review us on Apple Podcasts, blah, 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 blah. And also follow us on Instagram at Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast. Don't follow us on Twitter unless you just really want to at NEA_podcast.
We don't post to Twitter.
I do. I post
occasionally,
but
yeah.
it's just like knockoff Instagram posts. Yeah, we love y'all and see y'all next week.
Love that you guys.
Bye-bye.